This is an animation that goes through the steps that's required to complete a basic isometric drawing. So it starts off with a very with a basic orthographic view, which you can see here. You have an elevation, in view and plan view of an object that's like an L upside down or an inverted L shaped. Could be wood, could be metal, doesn't matter, we don't know because they're only coloured at the moment. So over on this side of the page we're going to do an isometric view, which is like a 3D view of that same object. So in this case those lines here will be going at 30 degrees and this one's at 30 degrees, and through this junction then you'll have a vertical line. So that's how you start off, and those lines will be, that's shown here in red, you will draw them in faint, hardly be able to see, but have them in there faint. They're your guidelines to start off your drawing, which is going to be animated here now. So there's your red vertical line, which you will draw in faint pencil. And the next thing you'll see here is the elevation version of the object is here shown in a bluish color. That's that same surface then shown here in the Y. So you can continue to draw it here. Take your measurements off here, for instance 45, so measure 45 along this 30 degree line then, and complete that elevation or isometric version of the elevation view. And up here we'll have a plan view in this top section of the Y, so this red Y you're looking at. Up here you'll have an isometric version of this plan view, and over here you'll have an isometric version of this in view. So next we're going to do an isometric version of the in view and of the plan view over here on the other two remaining sections of this red Y with the two 30 degree lines drawn. So I'll just animate that here now. So yes, there's the elevation ones in blue. Here in green then is the isometric version of the in view, and on top here then you'll see appearing the isometric version of the plan view. So don't forget to put in your titles. This is how it should look when it's finished. You should have two faint lines here, maybe 5 mm apart. The print should be just barely touching those faint lines. So every view has a title. That's very important, that every view has a title. So there's 3 views here in this orthographic drawing of the object, which shows 3 separate views. They're usually, as I say, mil high. The dimensions here are usually you know, your arrows are really small and sleek. The smaller and sleeker the arrows are, the neater the dimension lines will look. Always have your extension line then. There's your extension line here for your dimension. Have it in line with the end of the object. The dimensions themselves are usually in at 2.5 to maybe 3 mil high. So obviously the smaller they are, the neater this whole dimension will look. The smaller the arrows, the smaller the dimensions are entered, and as I said, very important that the arrowhead is touching the extension line. That's important. So this is basically what your finished product should look like. So that's your isometric drawing basics exercise 1. So next now will be exercise 2. So in this exercise we're going to introduce a rebate to the same shape. So there's the rebate there, and there's a view from another perspective there, and that's the elevation view. The elevation view of the same rebate is right there. And we've already started with our 30 degree and vertical line here, so we're prepared for the isometric view of this object, which is 2 pieces of timber that are rebated, and they're jointed with this. You can see in a hidden detail here, they're jointed with a mortise and tenon joint. And these are sectional views here, so you can see rather than an in view, actually it's a sectional view. So if you look at the direction the arrow is pointing here, that's the if you cut through there and threw away this section and looked from this end in the direction of the arrows and the sectional lines, that's what you would see. that's the shape you would see. And the same here, section BB, you would, if you cut along this line here, threw away this section and looked from this direction downwards, that's what you would see. So it's important that you understand how those sectional views work. So you're viewing in the direction of the arrow, number one. And by the way, usually sectional views are drawn in with a crow's foot arrow, which is showed here, and usually it's a long and short dash for a sectional line. I know it's a full line drawn here, but usually it's a long and short dash you'll see on this line here to show it's a sectional line. So on more complex drawings, when you're on building sites, you're going to have a lot of sectional views, so it's important that you're able to interpret them correctly. So we'll continue, similar to the first exercise, will be this surface here. Here we'll have the elevation view. This top section again will be we'll be shown the view from above. So we'll be making use now of those sections, section AA and section BB, and the animation will show you now as follows. So the first thing you do is you draw in the sections. Section BB is illustrated here. Your isometric version of the section BB has just appeared there in animation, and now the isometric version of section AA also appears here in green on the isometric view here. So, and the beauty of this is now you have these sections now here, here, here and here, the isometric versions of section AA and BB. You have somewhere now to pull lines from, and same from this direction, you have somewhere now to pull lines from. So that's important. So I'll continue the animation here and you'll see how it continues after that. And for now you keep the lines fairly light for those sections, because some of them will be hidden, they'll be gone in behind the object, so you won't really see them. So we'll continue here with the animation. So there's the first line pulled in blue, second and third animated line rising there in blue. And yeah. So you'll proceed as follows here. That's those three lines just pulled in green there. And the next thing you're going to see here, we're actually going to draw in the isometric view of the end of the tenon coming out through the mortise here. And if you look closely at the very end, that's going to get hatched with ingrain to show that it actually is a piece of timber, and it's the end of a piece of timber. So that pattern is called hatching, and that's done faint. Keep that faint. It's a series of curves, but keep it very faint. After now complete the drawing, making use of the isometric sections you've drawn. The completed drawing should be as follows, and I've illustrated here now in the next view. So that's your completed drawing. You can see here there's the proper hatching. Keep it faint, as I say, and have radiating lines from the center of those hand drawn curves. They should be hand drawn curves, and the same up here. Two curves close together, and then a wider gap, so the annular rings of a piece of wood. So it's hatched. The titles are in, very important. All necessary dimensions as explained, same sizes as an exercise one. So that's your second exercise.